Violence is like sex. It's all about the build-up.
Did you get that?
Behold, two opening scenes from two different movies. Two robberies, two getaways, and two car chases. Staples of the action movie genre, and a gripping way to open a movie. 2010's Drive, directed by Nicholas Winding, and 2016's Baby Driver, directed by Edgar Wright. Both drivers await the arrival of their co-workers in the driver's seat of their car. Yet, in their own unique ways. And as the chases begin, both scenes steer further into their own paths. On paper, both movies are doing the exact same thing. In both scenes, the objective of the two driver characters is the exact same: escape the police with the money. But while watching these two scenes, they go about it yet again in their own unique ways. Because the filmmakers are going about capturing it in their own unique ways. Because in truth, they're not doing the same thing at all, and they're not trying to. It's what makes me love this comparison so much, since neither approach in filmmaking is inherently better than the other. The quiet tension of Drive is no more impressive than the adrenaline-fueled action of Baby Driver. They're two masterfully crafted adaptations of a trope everybody loves, but each serving a completely different purpose to their respective movies, making them two of my favorite opening scenes ever put to film.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
The car chase. One of the most iconic things in movie history. No matter how many hundreds of thousands of movies that get made that feature a car chase, and no matter how many times we see a car chase, they just don't get stale. When done well, of course. When done well, a car chase can be a thrilling sequence, and as history has shown, not only are they thrilling, but they are memorable too. Trying to come up with a reason as to why this is the case
would be an exercise in futility.
Is that a fact?
But to simply admire the beauty and flexibility of the trope is something I can do.
I give you a 5-minute window. Anything happens in that 5 minutes and I'm yours.
Let's get back in the cars.
No matter what. Anything happens a minute either side of that, and you're on your own.
What's important to note when comparing these two scenes is these two movies. Stylistically, they are very different movies, but on paper, they are extremely similar, to the point where one could argue Edgar Wright did a little bit more than take inspiration from Drive. Both are movies centered around quiet, introverted characters who happen to be fantastic at driving, both who then happen to fall in love with a character that makes them want to leave their life of crime, but then through the gross reality of said crime realize they've put them in danger. The biggest difference between these two movies structurally would only be the endings. Happily ever after or not. But again, both movies open with said driver driving away from a bank robbery. And through these scenes is where we can find every single encompassing thing that makes them different. They are in completely separate genres of filmmaking, but both are just as epic. Let's look at these openings and find out what the intention is behind them. What are they trying to accomplish? Firstly, of course, is to open the movie. What does a good opening scene do? Well, lots. The opening scene is the first impression, and in the same way your first impression of meeting somebody in real life influences the way you think of them for the foreseeable future, your first impression of a movie influences the way you think of a movie for the foreseeable future. And it goes beyond simply whether you like it or don't like it. Take the opening moments of each scene. Baby Driver's opening shot is of the bank, then the car pulling up to it, telling a simple visual cue that a car will have something to do with bank. And then the music is cued. And right on cue, the crew of thieves exit the vehicle in a very rehearsed performance. And just like that, 1 minute into the scene, we are introduced to the style and tone of the movie, introduced to the filmmaking style of Edgar Wright. This is our first impression of Baby Driver. It's also perfectly introducing us to Baby. He says absolutely nothing until all of the thieves are out of the car. And as soon as they are out of the car and out of sight, he gets to be himself. which tells us so much about who he is. Compare that to Drive.
There's 100,000 streets in this city. You don't need to know the route.
Opens with this pulsating club music. Then, through a simple pan tilt camera move all in one shot, we are introduced to 1. His meticulous planning. He has a map of the city laid out with his route already planned and his line of communication secured. 2. His calm, soft-spoken voice, and of course, the iconic jacket. And we finish the shot by panning over back to the window and to the city beyond. That's the opening minute of Drive. That's our first impression of the movie and our first impression of Driver. It paints a completely different picture and a completely different atmosphere. But we're not even at the robbery yet. Drive has started a little further back in the bank robbery process, a deliberate choice by the script. He's driving alone, viewed from this over-the-shoulder shot of his hand on the wheel, and this low-angle shot, which are both then mirrored in the ending sequence. In a perfect example of beautifully utilizing opening images and closing images to tell a visual story. But that's a whole other thing.
Look like a zombie, kid. You getting any sleep?
He stays quiet, furthering our first impression.
Chevy Impala, most popular car in the state of California. No one will be looking at you.
And this right here is like the thesis statement for this upcoming scene. Compared to the flamboyant, adrenaline-rushed action of Baby Driver, Drive is opting for the subtle approach, the approach of a more quiet, tension-driven style, arguably a more solid foundation on reality, which is almost startling to watch because it's not how car chases normally go. But we get to the place of robbery. I don't actually know what this place is, but instead of hitting the needle drop on cue like Baby does, Driver starts his stopwatch, reminding us of that 5-minute window, and it turns on the basketball game while he waits. Both scenes feature the getaway driver alone in their car, waiting for the robbers to exit with the money. And as the robbers come rushing out of the doors of the bank, Edgar Wright uses a fantastic build-up through music and the edit, leading us into the chase. Edited, of course, in time with the music. And we're off to the races. I love that little moment, and thus begins one of the coolest car chases ever, featuring all of the good stuff. Drifting, collisions, sirens, speedometers climbing, this absolutely epic drift.
Now, this is epic.
Which I kind of wish they had kept as one continuous shot, but every drift, every turn of the steering wheel, and most importantly, every cut is in line with the music chosen for the scene, like a music video.
Got your ass now.
But the idea of doing an action film and a car chase film that's like set to music is literally like a dream movie for me. Myself and 3 different storyboard artists started drawing the car chase sequences. As we started plotting it out to sort of see how long these sequences would be and whether what I had written actually kind of fit the song. I've done scenes in movies before where you've had action choreographed to music. I thought Baby Driver should be all that. That should be the movie, is that it's all choreographed to music.
Baby Driver is reaching for a style to make you smile. It takes inspiration from the best car chases out there, and Edgar Wright wants to toss his hat into the mix, while also paying homage. The thing with this scene that's important to note is that we're never really in question whether or not he's actually going to get away with it. We're never really questioning whether he can evade the cops. We're just expecting him to, because we've seen this exact scene hundreds of times before. So the upbeat, "this is awesome" tone just adds to that, and they really lean into it, because they know that you know he's going to get away with it, so let's just have a blast in the action while we can. Whereas in Drive, again, the motive and intention is different. Throughout the chase and Drive, there is a lingering feeling that something could actually happen to these guys to have them get caught. The director isn't intending to create an adrenaline rush in his audience. Instead, his goal is more about tension and suspense. When he pulls behind that moving truck, that moment is like, whoa, this is real. Rather than having Driver wow us with crazy car stunts and impressive evasive drifting, he wants to impress us with something different about his character. Not just his driving skills, but his straight up intelligence and awareness while on the wheel, which is what makes him a good driver.
Dispatch, this is 1 out of 6. Possible suspect vehicle sighted at stoplight. Stand by.
Roger, Unit 6.
Stepping on the pedal when the time is right, and blending in when the time is right. It's something I don't think I've ever really seen previously in a movie, and as a result, it's nail-biting, because we linger in these moments, in between the action, rather than on the action itself.
It's like violence is like sex. It's all about the build-up. The climax itself is not. The more you're engaged in the build-up compared to the actual act itself. So it's the breaks in between that's the build-up to the slicings, and then it's back, and then it's in again, you know.
Yet all the while, he's been listening to the game the entire time, and the whole thing was simply a walk in the park. Other than on the phone, he says not a single word to his coworkers before they part ways for good. How to open your movie 101. Take it from either of these two masterpieces, the art of the opening scene. Because now, for both movies, as you move on to the next scenes and to the rest of the film, you're in it, because they've done the work in setting up the tone, the style, the genre, and successfully built the world of the story, both utilizing the tried and true trope of the car chase to do so, and again, putting their own unique spin on it, showing us that not just for the car chase, but for any classic trope in film, they're all just vehicles for a seemingly endless amount of dramatic storytelling possibilities. There's never one right way to do it. It all depends on the story you want to tell.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.